Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Student Voices Roundtable for our National Arts Ed NJ Week. This is our fourth roundtable for Arts Ed NJ, and so we will be going around and introducing ourselves. My name is Jocelyn Jeffries. Anyone who's been on this channel or has been associated with this organization at all probably knows who I am. But we don't know who these lovely people are. So I'm going to pass it over to Victoria, then Carrie, then Reed. So say your name, your grade, and what school you go to.
Hi, I'm Victoria Sate. I'm a senior this year in high school, and I go to Pascack Valley High School.
Okay, very cool. Carrie?
Hi, I'm Carrie Shea, and in 10th grade, and I go to the senior high school in Millville, New Jersey.
Cool.
Hello, I'm Reed Weingartner, and I go to West Windsor Plainsboro High School North.
Very cool. So some things to start. I think we can start off with an icebreaker. So we're going to do 2 truths and a lie. We don't have as many people as we typically do for our student roundtable, but people will probably be filtering in. And to the audience, if you have any questions for any of the participants, for just for everyone, for one person, that's totally cool. Put it in the comments, and we will put it on screen just like this, and we will be able to answer it. So let's start with, who wants to start with their icebreaker, with their 2 truths and a lie? Anyone can speak at any time. Well, okay, I will start first. So, my 2 truths and a lie. I have 3 brothers. I am engaged, and I love chocolate ice cream. So which ones do you think are, which one do you think is a lie, and which ones do you think are true? And it's fair to call me out.
The lie is that you like chocolate ice cream.
Really? I actually love chocolate ice cream. But that was very fair. I paused for a while on that one.
What was the first one again?
Oh, the first one is I have 3 brothers.
I think that one's the lie.
You are right. That is a lie. I only have 1 brother. So, since you guessed it correctly, I'm going to pass it over to you. 2 truths and a lie.
I have 1 sister. I have 2 dogs, one named Chewy and one named Neo. And my favorite ice cream is chocolate chip cookie dough.
Okay. Does anyone have a guess?
Your ice cream flavor is not the chocolate chip cookie dough.
That's true.
Yeah.
Bro, same.
So do you absolutely despise chocolate chip cookie dough, or is it just like...
That one was one of the truths.
Oh, that was a truth. So then truth is chocolate chip cookie dough, and then I think truth is also dog. And so then do you not have a sister at all?
The lie was the 2 dogs.
Really? That's so specific. Good job.
Thank you.
So do you have any dogs?
I do. I have 1 dog.
Okay, and then what is their name?
Chewy.
Oh, cute. And then last is Reed.
I guess I have a dog named Daisy. I'm a triplet, and I'm 6 foot.
Okay, so what do we think is the lie?
Triplet.
No, that's actually a truth. One of the truths.
Yeah, I actually even knew that to be a truth.
The 6 foot.
Yeah, no, I'm like 5'6" or something. I'm pretty short.
That's cool. So with that, We have a comment from Dee Walker. I don't know if any of you guys know Dee Walker, but she said, or they said hi. And then we can get into it. So, did we view the documentary that came out, I think, last week? Did anyone watch it?
Yeah, I did.
So, Carrie, do you want to give us kind of a summary and some things which you took from it?
Yeah, it was about how kids were expressing themselves through art, like even like dance and like painting and acting and singing during the pandemic and stuff, which it was um yeah, just like showing how they feel through that and helping them through the pandemic.
So, Victoria and Reed, did you guys get to watch it? If not, that's totally okay because I think they're pretty universal concepts to talk about. So, you both got to see it?
I didn't get to see it, but that sounds pretty interesting.
Cool.
Uh,
So, you mentioned, Carrie, something that reminded me that I forgot to ask. So, what are each of your arts? My art is filmmaking. What about you guys?
Mine is music, specifically vocal.
Okay, lovely.
Mine is drawing, painting, and animation.
Very cool.
Mostly mine is fabrication and design, but I also do some music as well. Like with my brothers, I play drum set and piano.
Very nice. So, do your brothers and you have like a band, or is it just you guys hang out and play music?
We'd like to think of it as a band, but I don't think we have the best synergy.
Oh, well, it's sweet. I think still playing together makes you a band. So, how was back to school different this year for you guys? Because I know that. So, Victoria, you said you were senior. We have 10th grade, and so what was it like with the time that we lost? Because for me, I was in high school for both years. My last 2 years of high school were, I wouldn't say taken, they were just super changed with COVID. So, so what was it like coming back with being in person again and everything? And anyone can start.
So, it honestly felt like normal, well, almost normal, because last year was such a big change that even coming with masks was just like, wow, we're back, you know? That's how I think of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it took a little bit of getting used to. Like, I think I'm in my third week back of school or fourth week, but it's a little strange because I wasn't in school at all last year. I didn't go in like a single day. So I was all remote last year, and it was just weird seeing everybody in person that I haven't seen in like over a year. Everybody changed, and it was interesting to see, but it was like, wow, I'm a senior this year. Like, I'm applying to colleges this year. It moved too fast. It like, I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of how it felt when I went back to school in senior year. So first year of COVID was junior year for me. Second year of COVID, I can't believe we all know what that means. But second year of COVID, senior year. So for me, I actually had the opportunity to go back. And if it wasn't my senior year, I probably would have stayed virtual. But I don't know. It really depended because it was hard being virtual. And we'll kind of get into how your guys' art changed and that sort of thing when you were virtual. But for me, it was really, really difficult to even do anything. And I'm someone who does like everything all the time. Like I did 9 clubs in senior year. I mean, in freshman year. So I was like always raring to go, and it really stalled. And then what about you, Reed? How was back to school? How was it different for you?
Yeah, it was pretty funny for me because when I went back, everyone was taller than me because in freshman year I was kind of, I don't know, just like all my old friends grew a lot because it was like a year and a half since I had seen them, so it was really strange.
And something I think is interesting is that every one of you has brought up the visual changes in everyone. And I think that's such an interesting thing to talk about. And they talk about that in the documentary, where it's where you, since you were online and you weren't in the public space, you were in the personal space for such a long time, you didn't have the opportunity to, I guess, perform in that way for the public sphere. And so some people, they got uncomfortable with it, and then some people were not used to it, and some people had just changed a lot. They had changed their style, they had changed everything, because it's hard when you're going on Zoom every day to continuously be like, oh, I'm going to like dress up and look nice to be on Zoom, because it doesn't feel like that much of a difference versus going to school. It's a whole transition. So what's one of the biggest changes personally for you that happened when you were going to school, or when you were doing your everyday life, from before and after? And then we can get into what changes happened with specifically your art, but what just in general happened before COVID and after COVID. I know I forget my mask a lot, but that's unrelated. It is a hard question.
Yeah, I'm trying to like figure out how to answer that, because it's like before COVID, you wouldn't have even thought that it was gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it was just regular, and now it's like you worry about it a lot. I personally worry about it a lot.
You worry if you're gonna go back to that status or not.
Yeah, and like because like before, I would have never imagined something like this would happen. So it didn't even cross my mind, and now I'm just like always worrying about the cases and stuff. So yeah, and yeah.
Interesting.
To piggyback off of that, I feel like during the pandemic, I spent a lot more time taking care of myself, like working out, trying to eat healthier, because like to not catch COVID, your immune system had to be like up to date, really working. But I think that was the biggest change throughout COVID, was I was really taking care of myself more, because I didn't really do that. I was eating like Wendy's every day before. So that was something that changed for me.
I just wrote down your immune system had to be up to date. I had never heard anyone use that before, but I love it because it's true. That's what it is you're taking care of the system of your body, so it has to be updated, it has to be taken care of. You have to make sure there's no bugs, everything. It's just an interesting way of formalizing it. But that's true, and that's an interesting thing that you brought up, where it's some people took better care of themselves while some people took worse, and it just was whatever was more comfortable for them, and whatever was a way of working with the situation. I think that's super neat. Also, we have a comment from Emma Thompson. Mamano, I'm so sorry. But they said, hello, I hope you have an amazing year and many chances to celebrate your artistic pursuits. So I think that's a great transition into, how did your art change? What was the biggest difference? Because for me, when I was alone in my room, I went back to mainly being a script writer versus being a writer, director, producer, editor, all of that. When I was alone, I mainly just wrote because that was all I could do. I couldn't get people in my physical space to film. So how about you guys? How did it change? How did it shift? And some things can be for the better and some things can be for the worst.
For me, it was a lot harder to go to the store and buy materials. So I ended up making a lot more stuff out of cardboard, which I didn't really do before. And it was a lot more challenging, but rewarding, because like with other materials, it's kind of made to be used a certain way, but cardboard, it doesn't really want to be put together in certain ways. So that was interesting for me.
It doesn't want to do it because it's made to hold things and transport them and then just be crumbled up and then made into more boxes and carry things. So it's interesting that that's an interesting shift to have. Because for me, I'm a props director. Well, I was a props director, and I used cardboard all the time. So what was one of your favorite things, and then we can get into everyone else's with their art, but what was one of your favorite things that you made over the lockdown with this newfound medium?
Well, one thing I made was I've had a sort of an interest in military vehicles when I was a kid because I played video games involving that kind of thing. So I built like a tank that was actually pretty large, and that took me like 3 weeks or something, but I found that pretty edifying.
That's really cool. That's awesome. So then, Carrie and Victoria, how did your art change? Did you discover any new mediums as well?
Yeah, I did. So during the pandemic, I discovered, like, usually I would do digital art and animation or on canvas, and I hadn't really done a lot of like realistic sketching before, and I tried doing that, and it helped me a lot because during the pandemic, my mind wasn't really running, so I didn't have a lot of ideas to draw because I wasn't like going places and stuff. Like I couldn't go places. I couldn't do a lot of stuff. So when I found this like new idea, or I needed to like challenge myself. So instead of doing digital art like I was used to, I did a lot of like realistic drawings, and I would challenge myself to do like more like realistic like pencil drawings and stuff. So that helped me a lot.
It's interesting that it connected you back to reality, and that you mentioned that your creativity didn't necessarily stall, but it was harder to get running when you didn't have that input that everyday life gave you.
Yeah, exactly. Like it just threw me off since I wasn't like in my routine anymore, you know? Like going to school, and I just like was like at home all day.
And so then, Victoria, what about you?
It was obviously hard to not be able to go out and actually perform, which it took a toll on me a little bit. It was because that's the most fun thing to do. I love it. But I actually never tried songwriting before. But during this pandemic, I actually wrote a few songs, which I've never done before, and it was really fun. It was actually a newfound love that I have for songwriting, and I never thought I would have liked it, but I do. So that was kind of interesting.
That is really cool. Oh yeah, of course. You guys can, of course, talk to each other. This is a free form event. You can talk whenever.
Yeah. So, I started doing like songwriting too, with like lyrics and stuff. So it's really nice that I see someone else like doing that, because it is a good way to like pour your emotions out onto it and stuff. Like it's really nice to write songs. So I started doing that too once the pandemic started, because I just like I found that it was like a good outlet. And it was
really
fun.
Therapeutic. Something about it is just so therapeutic.
Yeah, I am not musically inclined at all, though everyone in this room seems to be. But I am lyrically inclined, I guess. So I wrote a lot of poems. For one of my classes, we had like an option to do a passion project, and so that was part of my passion project was I tried to write a poem a day, which was way too much. But I wrote about one a week. And sometimes one like 5 in one day. It was whatever like happened. And that seems similar, is that it's interesting as artists that our brains immediately were like, we need to just produce something, and this is a quick way to show that. And so were a lot of your songs rhyming is an interesting thing. We have a nod from Carrie. We have a yes from Carrie. What about you, Victoria?
I didn't really think about rhyming when I was doing it. I just kind of like wrote whatever came to my mind. So, I mean, afterwards when I would edit, I would try to find things that worked. But
okay. And then what about you, Reed? So did you write any songs, or do you perform? What songs do you perform with your little band? I don't know how to describe it. I just think band is cute.
It's funny. I actually when I was a while ago, I wrote like rap lyrics, but they weren't very good at all. I really don't want to look at them again because they're a little embarrassing. But that was when my brother wanted to produce music, and I wanted to help him out with that, but it didn't really line up that well. But with my brothers, we usually just play like classic rock songs and stuff like that.
That's cool. Rock and roll. So that's cool that you guys explored that new medium and explored. And why I asked about the rhyming versus not is, for me, I like half of the time thinking rhyming. And I think if something rhymes or not shows a lot of people's headspace. So Carrie, that it rhymed for you. Did you write it rhyming, or did you write it and then edit it like Victoria said?
I wrote it rhyming, so I would do this and then like try to figure out a way to add a word at the end of the next sentence, but still make it connect to the other sentence so it makes sense.
Yeah.
It would kind of like tell the story.
Nice. And so that's how I wrote my poems too, is if I couldn't think of a word, I would look up Rhyme Zone online and come up with something to connect it.
Yeah.
But
I would use like Rhyme Zone.
It's an easy way to do it. So now that we are back in person as much as we can be right now, we still have the virtual events, but we still have in-person events, and it's kind of shifting back to it and hopefully staying there, but not gonna count on anything. What is something that you guys are looking forward to? It can be something small, something big, anything.
Does it have to be like a specific topic?
No, it can be whatever you're looking forward to.
Well, personally, I'm looking forward to coronavirus dying down. That's what I've been hoping and looking forward to for a long time, mainly.
That's interesting. Yeah. I think we're all hoping for that. And I think it is slowly, but there's things which are still hanging on. And so right now, everyone's in life, actually, everyone's playing on a chessboard, and some of us have had to change our strategy. And that's kind of what's going on, is we're wondering if we're going to be able to go back to the old strategy, or if we're going to have to keep the one we have now. And I think what it's going to end up being is a intermediate, where everything you've learned now is valuable, and everything you're going to learn is valuable, and then together you're going to have a new strategy that'll be somewhere in between. But I think that's something to think about, is that it's never going to be exactly the same.
Right, like things are going to be more sanitary, people are going to be more careful and stuff.
So yeah, Carrie, and what are some other thoughts from everyone just about that it's never going to be the same? And I know that's a hard thing to confront and a hard thing to talk about. This whole talking about the pandemic in general is a really hard thing to talk about, because they mentioned this in the documentary, which if you guys haven't seen it, I know I've been mentioning it throughout the stream to everyone in the audience. If you haven't seen it, we did a premiere of it, but it was a little glitchy because internet is hard to corral sometimes. So you can check out the video itself, the film itself, on our YouTube channel, and we will be doing we might be able to screen the documentary sometime during this stream. I think that would be great. And then we'll be having a educators roundtable next week, which is similar to this, and will be the educators who were in that documentary. So we'll get to hear more from them on the points that they talked about. But something that they mentioned is that it's never going to be the same, and that there's going to be things that linger, and that it was a shared trauma going through COVID and going through shutdown, because it's not something that humans are built to do, be alone in that way. And so I think art, and I think everyone who brought this up in the documentary, and I'm sure that you guys will agree with this as artists, but art kept us together to a certain extent. And so how was that for you? How was it? What's your thought on it never being the same? And then what's your thought on art keeping you together? And it can just be you or keeping your community or anything like that. I know it's a joint question.
For how art has kept us together, I was able to do a few like virtual concerts and talk to people that I haven't talked to in like 5 years because I live across the country. So I was able to perform with some of my friends from my childhood, which was really, really fun and like deja vu. But that was fun. But to go off of that COVID's never really going to be this, like life's never going to really be the same after COVID. I agree, because it's not going away. It's not just going to disappear. It's always going to be here. It's like the flu, not like the flu, but
yeah,
it's gonna. There's always going to be COVID, but it just like how long are we going to have to wear masks? Because there's a new variant out. There's 2 variants out now, so I don't know.
You're waiting to continue our discussion in technological terms, but are you waiting for it to stop buffering and you're waiting for it to just load properly? Because that's kind of how it feels for me too. Is like I'm waiting for the coronavirus to stop buffering and adding new updates so we can at least return to some sort of thing. Because when you update, what you get back is a little different changes, but it's still basically the same. And so yeah, that's a very understandable feeling. Absolutely. And that's super cool about your getting to connect with people who you haven't seen in such a long time. And what's so interesting is that we could do this before, but we didn't think about it until we had to. Like I could run these streams before COVID. I StreamYard existed before COVID, but now, like, we thought about it and now we're doing it, and it's great. I would have never gotten to meet you 3, but now I have, and we wouldn't have been able to meet each other. So I think that's really cool, and I think that's something that came out that was a positive of COVID, is that we learned how to coexist with technology in that way. Coexist to have us coexist with everyone else. So, and then Reed and Carrie, do you have any more comments on how it's shifted with it, and then just knowing that it's not gonna be the same? And if you don't want to answer that question, it's okay. I understand it's a hard one.
The way that it's not going to be the same has good aspects to it. Like, for example, the fact that we will be more sanitary and be more careful is a good thing. And it helps keep people safe. But not everything is not going to be the same. So things will go back to normal, but there will be the things that will just, be things to make people stay safe. And it'll be a reminder of, COVID.
Yeah.
For me, it's been tough, but learning to connect with my friends virtually has really helped me become closer with them, because when I do see them, it feels great, because then we can catch up like way better than we would virtually, and it just I guess when COVID started, I didn't keep up with them that much, and now that when I do see them, it's like, I guess, a weight off my back that I can know that they're still looking out for me and that they care about me. So yeah.
Yeah, and for me personally, it was hard keeping relations with my friends over text, which was a really hard, like another thing, um, that was hard during the pandemic for me was, having to not being able to see my friends from school. And when school started back again, it was like everyone was around me and I could see everyone who I saw like way before the pandemic again. And I was like, yay, I'm seeing my friends again. Because we kind of like me and like a lot of my friends, we stopped talking um during this big break that we had because I interact with people more in person better. So yeah.
Well, that's interesting. For me, that happened too, where I didn't. Some of the friends that I lost, I think, is for the better. I think it showed me who I was supposed to be taken care of by and who I was supposed to be taking care of. Um, but some people, it was really hard that I'm no longer friends with them. And there's some people who I didn't talk to for a while, and then now we know how to use technology better, like how Victoria mentioned earlier. Now I've reconnected with them, and I'm closer than I was before. And I think it was helpful. And then the friends which you didn't talk to for a while, but you were able to reconnect with, that's really cool because it shows that maybe the internet and technology and texting wasn't the way to communicate with them, but they're still your close friends because you could take that break and you guys still just as close. Yeah, which is really valuable. Do we have any more comments on this? Because we have a comment from the audience, if we can move on to that. But if we have anything else on how it shifted, please go ahead.
What's strange is I also made some new friends online. I mean, from my school and from other places, because I was spending so much time just on my computer. I decided, I should probably make the most of it. So I kind of bonded with some new people through various games or stuff like that.
Yeah, I met my fiance during COVID. So things are like that, where if you meet online, it was just different. It put a lot of people who weren't online before onto the internet, because that was the way we connected. And so you got to meet even more people than you thought you were able to. And you got to meet people who live 3 minutes away from you, 5, 10, and they were there your whole life, but now they're there. And it's just a whole other level of meeting people, which is really cool. So we got to use the internet to its fullest extent during COVID, and some people it was really hard for, but some people it was really helpful for. And it's nice to see that every one of you has had positive experiences with it, even though there were a lot of hard ones too. So our question from the audience, someone from inside of our organization mentioned this. And so this is to Victoria. What was the experience of being a 2021 NJ Governors Awards Arts Ed recipient from NJ PAC in the wake of the pandemic? So what was it like dealing with that? Because I got it in 2020 and it was really weird, but I got this internship from that. So what was it like with 2021?
It was a surprise for me because I had no idea that I was even nominated. So I just got a call one day and it said you won the 2021 Governors Award, and I was like, what? So I was speechless for that entire day that I found out. But it was interesting because it was a weird time, and I was like, all right, guess I'm doing something right, because definitely during this time, I was able to work further into my craft. So that was kind of like reassurance that even though the pandemic was happening, I could still like do this. So
you can still produce in
yeah,
that way. Yeah.
it was. I'm very grateful for it.
What happened with me was I got mine in person, like it got announced in person. So I remember falling over when I heard about it, and I was an STO, so it's a state thespian officer, and I was backstage getting ready for the closing ceremonies when it was announced, and my fellow STOs were like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "I'm great." But that was then when I actually received the award, it was virtually. And it was the first time we had done it virtually with Arts Ed and J. Well, I wasn't really we at that point yet. Well, I was when it was happening. I was we a little bit before it. And so it's interesting how we ran it a little differently when we were completely in lockdown for that. Because we were pretty much completely closed during 2021. So that's interesting, and I'm glad it strengthened you with your craft, and it was like a sign that this is what you're supposed to be doing. So with that in mind, what is everyone planning to do future wise? And if you don't have an answer, that's totally cool. I get it. But if you do, it'd be awesome to hear. And we can also talk about what you're thinking of. So anyone can start.
So I think that I might want to be an animator for Cartoon Network or something like that. You know, animating like children's cartoons and stuff, 3D or 2D. So yeah, and I also want to be a book illustrator, which I have illustrated a book so far. So I want to continue that and like, you know, have it become like a thing that I do that will actually like, you know, help me succeed and stuff. And I want to do like a lot more and like maybe like um get exposure from it and stuff. So yeah.
So you mentioned that you saw the documentary. What part of the documentary are you in? Because I want to just be refreshed on your art, and then we'll definitely be watching the documentary at the end of this. And probably there'll be a little bit of time when we discuss it. But I just want to be refreshed so I can think about what your art is.
So I did a animated short film using paper, so it was like stop motion, and
So
they added,
it was the cat, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought, and I would have guessed it, but I wasn't sure. Okay,
Yeah.
That's very cool.
The short film was about like how I felt during the pandemic, going back to school and stuff, or leaving school and like going back as like with like a lot of restrictions, and mainly it was on the computer.
That's understandable. So that sounds really cool, and I think you look like you should be working at Cartoon Network. You have a really cool vibe going on with your outfit right now. You're prepped for Halloween, which I appreciate.
Yeah, it says Halloween on my sleeves. I got a jack-o'-lantern.
Very nice. I don't know if this comes as a shock for anyone, but I'm actually not a huge fan of Halloween. But I appreciate everyone else who loves it. And I think that's so cool. Like, I love people loving things. I'm more of a Christmas person, so I did the blasphemous thing of listening to Christmas music the other day.
That's understandable.
Yeah. Christmas and Valentine's Day. That's it. I don't know why. They just fit. But that's super cool, and I hope to see you there, and I think I probably will. Not in that I'm going to be animating with you, but I'll see your name in the animators slot. So then what about you, Victoria and Reed? What are you guys thinking future-wise? And it doesn't have to be in the arts, but if it is, that's super cool.
Well, I'm actually applying to colleges right now, so this is like a touchy subject. But I'm hoping to write more songs and actually release some songs. But also, I had the opportunity to do my first job in film this summer, which was really cool. So I definitely want to dive deeper into that because that was a blast.
So was that acting? Was that composing music? What was it?
It was acting.
Okay, very cool.
Which was really fun. So definitely want to do more of that in the future as well.
Definitely. That's awesome. So you have a lot of doors open. And I think everyone here has a lot of doors open, which I think is really cool. And then what about you, Reed?
For me, I've actually been more interested in following medicine because I'm really interested in medical devices, and I'm not sure if I wanted to pursue like specifically biomedical engineering or something like that, but I really find it interesting how technology can, be implemented to fix something inside someone, and like, just how you can insert like machines and stuff into a person's body. And, I don't know, I find it really interesting, and I would totally like want to do that in the future. It's not really related to art, but yeah.
No, but it is an art unto itself. And I think it's interesting. So what is your perspective on how we socially did this, and how we added technology into our lives? So it was vital before. Like everyone had cell phones before, but it became another level of vital for us now. There's people who are working online. So what's your perspective on that?
I actually, I've seen doctors like come into work virtually, like on a machine, and it's like I find that so incredible that they can, administer their services like not without even being there.
Yeah. Yeah, telemed is like a thing we say now casually. There's so many terms that were coined during COVID. We won't get into it, but it's just something interesting to take a look at. Like they were either coined during COVID or they existed before, but now we casually use them. So like a lot of people didn't know what asynchronous meant, but now telemed, we know I don't know, we know a lot of things. People casually use the word cohort. Like these are just strange things to notice, that even our understanding of language shifted a little bit with this. So we have a comment which said, Carrie, thank you for sharing your art with us. It was a wonderful addition to the documentary.
Thank you.
So do we have any questions which you'd like to explore before I move on to our next one? Just wanted to open it up to you guys. Any questions for each other? Okay, no problem. So what I'm thinking is we're going to start something called hashtag because of arts ed. And so that'll be talking about your arts education story. So where you started with it, where you're going with it, that sort of thing. So for an example, I'm going to do mine really quickly. I started with arts education my entire life. It's always really been part of me. I went to a tiny Christian school growing up, and I did plays and things with them even in kindergarten. And then I had my first big role, like I was the lead character in 4th grade. I was an actor up until I'd say probably freshman year of high school. And then I did the musical, and I did not enjoy it as I used to. And I was like, that's strange. Why is this thing that I've loved my whole life not working anymore? And so then I did a film club, a film camp over the summer, and I fell in love with it. And then after that, I made a film, submitted it to NJ Thespians, which is who gave me the Governor's Award for the year after. But I submitted that, and then I got a fair, which is the lowest you can get at that festival. And I was like, wow, that hurts. And then I did some contemplation and I was like, I've been doing film for 7 months. The fact that I was able to produce anything after starting is like a whole thing unto itself. And so then I worked some more over that year and then submitted again for that, and I made a thing called Married Life, and I submitted it to Thespian Festival, and it's a 4-minute film about from which depicts from when a couple gets married to when their daughter gets married. And then I submitted it to there, and I got first in the state for that festival, and I got the governor's award with that. And then now I'm working for an arts organization that I love dearly, and I love doing this job because I get to hear from all of you, and I get to connect you guys and see lovely art every single day and facilitate it. And that is my arts ed story. And so you can talk as long as you want, as short as you want, whatever you're comfortable with, and whoever wants to start can start. We can also just go the way we introduced ourselves, so we can have Victoria start.
Well, I started singing, I guess, when I was 5 years old. Music was always in my family. My grandfather was a trombonist, so there was always jazz music around our house. And then I didn't do it for a while because I was a competitive swimmer, but when I was around, I think 8, I started doing musicals and plays, and then I started auditioning for shows in the city, and then I did a few off-Broadway shows, and then I was able to perform at the Metropolitan Opera House, Radio City, Carnegie Hall, which was really fun. And then I got involved with the NJ-PAC Jazz for Teens program when I was 12. And that really expanded my horizons with jazz because I wasn't really singing jazz before then. And I really enjoyed it. I would look forward to it every weekend because it was only once a week, sadly. I wish it was more than once a week, but I started that when I was 12, and I've been doing that ever since. And yeah.
Very cool. So next up is Carrie.
So, this is a question. How did I start my art and where's it going?
So that's kind of the base of it, and it's because of arts ed. So how did arts ed affect you, and where are you going? How did you start in it? Just a little bit about yourself and where you come from, basically.
I didn't really know how to answer. I guess I always did art, right?
So how did it transition over time, and what was it like going from middle school to high school with your art? Because if you've always had it with you, then it's always been part of you. So how has it affected each area of your life throughout your transitions?
In elementary school and middle school, it was like a fun thing for me to do, but I always knew that I wanted to make a career out of it. Like, always knew that. Like, even in elementary school. So now I know that I actually have to start being more serious with it and, like, practicing, like, a lot of techniques and stuff. So, yeah, and also colleges as well. That's basically it, I guess.
Very cool. So you both are planning college on that. And so, Reed, how about you? What is your hashtag because of arts ed story?
Well, I guess when I was young, I got interested in making models. I mean, like vehicles and so forth, and painting them as well. And so when I went into middle school, I was really interested in doing something more hands-on, I guess. So I did woodworking, and I found it really interesting being able to make I made like a table or other stuff like that, and it was just it felt really rewarding. So I took a lot more design and engineering courses down the line, and yep, just
That's cool. That's exactly that's it. The fact that and then you had the ability to take that art, which wood shop is an art unto itself. Some people may not consider it that, but I think it definitely is. Um, and and you got to have that opportunity to do that and have that technical experience. And so all of you had opportunities from school, and also you had opportunities outside of school, and that's really cool. It helped either strengthen your skill or encourage you to build your skill or just build a whole new skill into itself. So a little bit of a sojourn. Check out the 2021 NJ Governors Awards in Arts Education and Victoria's amazing performance of Bewitched, Bothered, and Unbewildered, and Bewildered, not Unbewildered. Bewildered at the www.njgaae.org. And I saw that when we originally do it. So, Victoria, do you have something to say?
I just said thank you.
And so you guys can check that out there. And do we have any last things to say? Because I think we should start taking a look at the documentary. I think it'd be really cool for our audience to see it and for everyone here to see it. And then we can talk about some of the things talked about in there. But last comments before we transition to that. Okay, cool. So I will go grab that video file. Okay.
One of the greatest beauties of arts is that we are naturally inclined to step beyond the boundaries.
This was the situation we were all in, like it or not. Everything collapsed altogether. You lived and you worked in the same space.
Besides the pandemic, they probably had so many issues going on in their lives, and then they had this pandemic thrown on top of them. So many families got coronavirus, people died, people were in the hospital.
A lot of people are isolated, and they were isolated, and they felt isolated.
I also understood and had that experience myself after a while with your hair and your image. Seeing students physically look different because they gained weight. You want to present yourself to the world when you walk outside the way you want to. And when you take all of those factors out, you're left with this lack of control.
What happens with all these additional pressures of trying to keep that up while facing loss, sickness, the tension of the racial issues in our country, the political situations? Is this really important? This pushing for what? For an A when there's so much going on in the world.
As a teacher, when everything about your bones, everything inside you says that we need to be together, you just feel like you're a failure because you can't do it, because you don't know how to do it.
This should not be a time where you stop and go, I can't do anything. You should be going, all right, how do I come out of this better than when I went in?
There's no magic elixir. You just gotta plod through it. You work it out day by day. Because the arts are what teach you how to be human. The arts are what teaches you how to be connected with another person, how to solve a problem before you even know what the problem is. Just take nothing and create everything.
But how can I create now?
We know we can do it because it's been done, and it's where our art form comes from. I can hear you. Your voice is a frequency, just as if you're on a stage and you have an audience. We can connect. Listen to a sound in your environment and mimic that with your mouth. What's a low vibration emotion right now that you feel and you don't want to feel? Technology glitches. Do you hear a potential beat in that? Can you mimic that rhythm pattern through beatboxing? Play with the obstacles so that we're not stopped and shut down in our artistic expression and our opportunity.
We went over things like in the house. Cardboard box is awesome. You could just cut it open. You could paint on that. You could draw on that. A paper bag. Whatever you have. You move forward into this alternate reality that you're creating for yourself. It's like this little spark or ember, and it resonates and starts growing and growing, like dancing when you're moving your body and you're just getting lost in everything, like your true self coming out.
What happened during this pandemic is that when people were shut up into spaces, there was a drive for wanting to create. If we're not producing something, there's something inside of us that's going, then what am I here for? Why do I exist?
Don't you forget, the only thing that matters is our heartbeats going.
What the pandemic taught the students more than anything is that they are the driving force. They're the medium, they are everything. Because it's really about the blossoming, isn't it? Isn't it, when you're working with students and working with people, isn't it about the blossoming of their growth, not just of the art, but of what they're doing and who they are? When they own it, it's valuable. When they create it, it's valuable. It doesn't have to be the best they've ever done, it just has to be honest. That's when we get to that point where we're like, there's that rose. There's that rose in the weeds.
We always have a choice of how we respond to the crisis. That's what arts does. It gives them the voice.
Okay, so I'm going to do one more thing, and then we can get into discussion. There we go. Now everyone is in the same spot that we were. Okay, so what are some thoughts? And it was cool to get to see what we were talking about with Carrie's art, and actually get to experience it together. So what are some thoughts that we had going?
Something I noticed in the documentary was it talked about with the cardboard sculptures and art. I did kind of a similar thing, like just using what I had in my house to just as an outlet for continuing to do what I want to do, and I think that was really helpful to be able to do.
Absolutely. And I think it's interesting that they mentioned not only did people do that with the literal physical material things they had around the house, but people also did that with what they were given technologically. So for me, I made a PSA over the pandemic, and so we filmed all online. So we filmed with Zoom, we filmed with FaceTime, we filmed with we filmed our texts, and so I edited it together, and I had to work with the technological boundaries. And I also edited and directed a play. I edited and directed 2 plays over the pandemic, and I had to edit those, and those had boundaries which were specifically technological, and working with those boundaries. And it was interesting that she was like, work with the syncopations. This is Purple, and we'll see her on next week's Arts Educator Voices Roundtable. But that's an interesting thing to note as well. Carrie, do you have something to say? Okay, I thought I saw a build up there. So are there any other things? I think it's interesting. It was nice seeing everyone's art. Some people's I had seen before on a one-to-one basis, where I like sat and watched their film separate from the event, from the Governor's Awards. Some I saw through my streams. Some I saw through in person, seeing it, or seeing it through other events, that sort of stuff. So it was interesting seeing that, and nice seeing that. And something that they mentioned was, and this is something that was mentioned by the director himself, was being able to produce anything at this time is brilliant. And I think that's something to commend yourself on, each and every one of you, is that you created something. You may not have given it out to the world in a official stance, producing in that way, but you created. And that's something so valuable, and that's something to be proud of. So with that, do we have any questions from the audience? Do we have any questions for each other before we close down for the night? Okay. Well, I hope everyone has a wonderful night. I hope everyone stays safe. It was wonderful talking to you. Thank you for joining us today, as Arts at NJ on Facebook says. And I hope all of you have a wonderful rest of your year. I know it's just starting, and it's starting off wonky yet again, but at least it's in person now. And I hope you can find some joy in it. And I hope, Victoria, your senior year rocks. And I will see you all in the future. I'm looking forward to seeing where you go. And be sure to tune in next week for all the special events happening then. And if you didn't get to see the documentary, even though we just watched it, or you want to see it again, it's on our YouTube channel. So with that, goodbye, everyone.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.